Plant pests. A plant pest is anything that causes destruction to plants. There are many types of pests, including insects, diseases, nematodes, and weeds. Insects are considered beneficial when they pollinate plants, attack harmful insects, and produce honey. Insects are considered harmful when they cause damage. Insects can damage plants by chewing on and sucking sap from plant parts, which makes plants less productive. Insects also lay eggs on plants that can cause damage when they hatch and reduce the quality of a harvest. Scientists who study insects are called entomologists. Remember that insects undergo a series of changes known as metamorphosis in order to develop from egg to adult. Insects can be harmful to plants during one stage of metamorphosis while being beneficial in another stage. For example, when a caterpillar is in the larval stage of complete metamorphosis, it is harmful as it feeds on plant leaves. Once it develops into a butterfly, it is beneficial as it helps pollinate flowers. Plants can also be damaged by disease. Any abnormal condition of a living plant that affects the normal activity of its cells, tissues, or organs is defined as a disease. When normal functions are interrupted by disease, plant quality decreases because of deformity, change in color, wilt, rot, offensive odor, or death. Disease is caused by microscopic disease-producing agents called pathogens. These may be fungi, viruses, or bacteria. A plant pathologist studies plant disease. Though bacteria often play a beneficial role in the environment, especially to plants and soil, they can cause diseases like blight. A change in plant color is usually associated with blight, and plants wither and sometimes die. Blight can also be caused by viruses or fungi. It's important to know that the effects of environmental stresses can mimic the effects of disease or can weaken plants so that they are more susceptible to disease. Environmental stresses are caused by extreme temperatures, high winds, pollution, nutrient deficiencies, drought, and over- or underwatering. Nematodes are tiny roundworms that can damage plants. They live in the soil and in the leaves, stems, and buds of plants. Some nematodes are visible, but some are so small that they can only be seen with a microscope. A nematologist studies nematodes. Nematodes have a spear-like appendage that allows them to puncture plant cells and suck plant juices. Nematodes that attack the above-ground parts of the plant are called foliar nematodes. The stems and leaves of a plant that are damaged by nematodes may be malformed or have dead spots. Nematodes can cause galls, which are abnormal growths resembling bubbles or cysts, which reduce the quality of a crop. Nematodes also tunnel inside plant roots. They can secrete a substance that further damages the roots and allows disease-causing bacteria and fungi to enter. When plants are damaged by nematodes, they don't thrive, they're more susceptible to disease, and sometimes they die. Weeds are another pest that can cause damage to plants around them. A weed is any plant that is growing where it's not wanted. A weed is called a noxious weed if it creates numerous problems for crops. Noxious weeds grow faster than crop plants and choke them out or shade them so that the crop plants can't get enough sunlight. They also use available moisture and nutrients, which can cause lower crop yields. Agronomic crop seed labels must list the amount of noxious weed seed that can be found in a bag of seed. Insects, nematodes, diseases, and weeds are all pests that can cause damage to plants and increase production costs. However, 3 conditions must be present for an infestation to occur. First, the pest must be present. Second, the plant must be susceptible to the pest. And third, the right environment must be present to support the pest. To avoid pest infestations, farmers can use pesticides to make the environment harmful to pests. And now, let's explore the core. When chemical companies create insecticides, they do a lot of scientific research. One important calculation is exponential decay. Traces of insecticides can remain in the soil long after they're applied because they have a half-life, the amount of time that it takes for 1/2 of a quantity of the chemical to decay. Half-life is an example of exponential decay. A chemical company wants to investigate the environmental effects of a newly developed insecticide for potato crops. If the insecticide has a half-life of 35 days and 0.58 pounds per acre of it are used, then what is the amount of the insecticide still active in the crop soil 1 year later? To calculate exponential decay, we use this formula. A is the final amount of a chemical. C is the original amount of chemical. R is the rate of change expressed as a decimal. T is the time in days that a chemical decays, and H is the half-life of the chemical. We can find the values for each of these unknowns in the question and then plug them in to calculate A, the final amount of chemical. C is the original amount of chemical, 0.58 pounds. When calculating the half-life of something, the rate of change is 50%. In an equation, we need to express it as a decimal, 0.50. We can see that the half-life of the chemical is 35 days. Inserting these values into our formula gives the following equation. Notice that T represents time. We want to know how much of the insecticide is left after 1 year, but in our formula, the rate of decay is based on the number of days that it takes for the chemical to decay by 50%. 1 year is equal to 365 days, so we enter 365 for T. Now we use our orders of operation to calculate the value of A. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally? This helps us to remember to start with anything inside parentheses. Next, we find the value of the exponent, and then calculate it. Now, we multiply to solve the equation. Scientists would show this amount in scientific notation, 4.29 times 10 to the -4th pounds. So we can see that a very small amount of the insecticide that was applied in 1 year would still be present in the soil a year later. More research could determine how this amount might affect the environment. Today's SAT word is noxious. Noxious is an adjective that means harmful or corrupting. In the lesson, we learned that noxious weeds are harmful to crops because they use up available moisture and nutrients to grow faster and choke out crop plants.